Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
The world is full of uncertainties and unexpected events. You have to learn how to deal with them. We are doing a deep dive today of one of my favorite anime movies of all time, so much so this anime takes up 2 spots on my sleeve. My name is Elizabeth Clyde. This is Systematic Geekology, and we are ready to dive in to one of Miyazaki's films. Joining me are some of my favorite hosts. Once again, I am Elizabeth Clyde, and joining me is TJ, who is apparently the best host because everyone just somehow unanimously agrees on this. How are you doing today, TJ?
It's co-host.
Yes.
No, you are the host. It's fine.
Yeah.
Titles
Good,
are not important.
I agree.
And yeah, it's fine. And then also joining me is Christian Ashley. How are you, Christian?
Little under the weather, but I'm okay. Let's do this.
Well, yeah, you better get better because I'm excited right now. It may not sound it in my voice because it's been a long day, but I am jumping for joy inside. And then my Pokemon fanatic friend, Barb, how are you doing today?
Good, tired, but good.
It's just one of those things. Is it raining where you're at too? It's raining where I'm at. So
It's been raining off and on for the past 3 weeks, so I'm kind of used to it by now.
It's fun. And then we have a special guest. This is my second time meeting him, but I just found out we're pretty much best friends because we're from the same area, and I'm going to get coffee with his mom soon. Herbie, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. A bit tired, but it's still the beginning of the week.
Isn't that crazy? It's already felt like such a long week.
It's kind of sad.
It kind of is sad. All right, guys. Well, like I said, we are Systematic Geekology. You have a ton of co-hosts, if you ask TJ here. So we're going to have a great conversation. Make sure you rate us on whatever platform you are listening to us on, whether it's YouTube or podcast. Now, we're going in. I haven't said the name of this movie yet, but if you are watching on YouTube, you already see the banner. We're talking about Spirited Away, and I'm so excited. You guys don't understand the emotional connection I have to this movie. And so before we even get into the movie, into the details, into the deep dive, I need to know, what is your relationship with this movie? With me, I watched it on VHS.
Skipping some things, Pang.
It's fine. I can go out of order. I am the lead one. I am host one. I am General Commander right now.
I just wanted to make sure that you weren't forgetting them.
No,
and you know what?
It's fine.
Yeah.
We are establishing relationships. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
This is why I said TJ was number 1, and now you bumped to number 2 of my list.
I mean, that's fine.
So Christian, this is true. But Christian, tell us your relationship about Spirited Away.
Well, since I so rudely spoke up, I'll go ahead. And I watched this movie a couple of years ago for the first time. It was one of those I didn't watch when I was younger. Just kind of went by and saw it a little after college, I think, and had a blast. I really love this movie. I watched it earlier today just to refresh my memory. It's got a lot of engaging stuff. I love the yokai we see, the spiritualism we get into, the Shintoism we get into as well. It's a very fun movie.
And TJ, what is your relationship?
Yeah, so I saw Howl's Moving Castle. Well, I'll get there in a second. Just hold on. I
right.
saw Howl's Moving Castle when it was on Cartoon Network in like 2007, 8, somewhere in there, something like that. I was like, wow, that's awesome. That movie's great. I can't wait to see more movies like that. And, I was 9, so it wasn't really easy to find movies like that. But we had ended up with a copy of Spirited Away at my daycare.
Was it DVD or VHS?
It was DVD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm not as cool as you are.
It's
but
fine.
So I saw this at daycare for the first time. I was like, well, yeah, all of these are fantastic. Gorgeous movies.
It's so gorgeous. What about you, Herbie?
So the first time I watched this movie, I was watching it with a friend who was having a bad day. And this movie is like her comfort movie. If she's ever having a really hard time emotionally, this is the movie she wants to watch. And so probably in the last year, I've seen it like 6 times with her.
As you should.
Because anytime she's having a bad day, this is one of the things that she defaults to watching.
Dang, she's only had 6 bad days in a year. She's doing good.
Really bad.
Impressive. Well, I guess that we know of. Oh yeah, Barb, I saved the one of the best for last because we also have Pokemon Kindred Spirits. And I feel like Barb and I are probably the most similar in taste. So I'm very excited.
Probably.
Tell me your connection with this movie.
Well, I grew up, my older sister, she's 7 years older than I am. We have similar tastes, and she was the one who really introduced me to the whole anime video game genre. And so she first introduced me to Kiki's Delivery Service and Nausicaa. And so I'm like, okay, well, what other movies have come out over the years by Hayao Miyazaki? And so Spirited Away was definitely a big one. We managed to drag my parents into watching Spirited Away with us too, which is a big deal because my dad is kind of anti-anime, but he actually really enjoyed it too. So I'm a big fan of, Eastern Asian dragons and Japanese mythology in general. So it's definitely a good movie to watch if you're into something like that.
It's such a good movie to watch. I can't recommend this enough. So, Spirited Away is a 2001 animated fantasy film directed by Hayao Miyazaki and was produced by Studio Ghibli. So, this is one of the Ghibli, I always say triune in my head. It's Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle. Like, in my opinion, those are the top 3 Ghibli movies, and I will fight you for them because whatever you say that is against that thought process to me is just wrong. So Spirited Away is number 1. So it's a renowned film for, as Christian was saying, the richly imaginative world, and like the animation is beautiful. The emotional depth is beautiful. And so I have such a passionate relationship with this because when I was little, my grandma would always buy VHSs. And every time I would go to grandma's house, she would have a different VHS. And she didn't know what she was buying. She saw a cartoon and she probably just saw it cheap. So I was like 9 or 10 when I saw this. And then so it was my grandma who probably got me obsessed with anime because, like you said, Barb, I knew we were the same. Like I saw Kiki's Delivery Service as well, like on VHS. And I just loved those type of movies. And so I kept seeking out Studio Ghibli, even in my adult life. So such a great topic. Who wants to get started of what this is about? So we're going to follow a young girl named Chihiro, who is the main star. If you like Ariana Grande, she has a Chihiro tattoo. I just felt like you should all know this. It's just important facts. So who wants to get started with what this movie is about?
So we start with a little girl named Chihiro. She's about 10 years old, and her parents are moving to a new place. She's very upset because she's leaving her friends behind and everything she knows to go to a new school, a new house. And her dad decides, hey, I'm going to go take a shortcut because it's such a very big dad move that gets them lost. And in the process, they end up going through this tunnel and finding what seems to be an abandoned amusement park where the dad smells some food, goes to eat it, and not looking for anyone around. And as a result, he and his wife are turned into pigs. Chihiro does not eat the food, but watches her parents turn into pigs, is brought into the more yokai spiritual side of things, as there's been like a moving of dimensions there. And now she's stuck on the other side, rescued by a boy named Haku, who tells her, hey, you got to get a job if you want to stay here. Otherwise, the leader of this group, Yubaba, will cause you to suffer misfortune. So She befriends a guy named Kamaji and a girl named Lynn to work in this place. But as part of the deal, Yubaba steals part of her name away and then renames her Sin, which I think is how the kanji is used in her name. I'm not a Japanese language expert, but I think she takes the Chihiro part out and just leaves Sin, putting her under that contract. So it's her living in this very spiritual bathhouse kind of place where yokai will come in and get clean, dealing with all of them, while also trying to find a way to get back to her parents, finding out who Haku really is and her actual relationship with him, because he knows her name and she doesn't remember why. And we find over the course of the film that he had actually saved her life years ago from drowning in a river that no longer exists. And she's able to eventually finagle her way to get her parents back to their human forms. They have no memory of what happens, but it's heavily implied she does is she leaves to go to the other side with the hope that one day she may be reunited with Haku.
See, this is why you are so good at summaries. I would have just dragged it out because I would have like nitpicked on like little details. Like, for example, my favorite character is not Haku, even though when I rewatch this film to this day, I feel a little cringe in my soul because I'm still attracted to this little boy as a 32-year-old. And I should not be saying this as film, but that's kind of how I feel. And it's not okay. But I love him so much. He's tattooed on my arm, but he's not my favorite character. My favorite character that doesn't get enough, I guess, screen time is the radish spirit. And
Yes.
the radish spirit.
Yes.
He's literally just a giant radish with a little red bath loincloth on. It's pretty much like a big old sweaty guy. And he helps Chihiro get to the top of the tower. And so because she's a human, she smells bad. So she's really trying to just sneak in, and everyone is against her. So she's in this new world. She's already feeling helplessly lost because she was taken away from her homeland, like her homeland, like, you know, her city that she was living with. Now she's taken away from her parents. She left them turned into pigs. And so she's just confused. Everyone's against her. And I mean, she's kind of a bad booty for a 10-year-old girl. And she has to figure out who to trust. She doesn't know what's going on. So do you guys have any favorite scenes or characters in this movie? Not all at once, please.
No one wants to talk over anyone. It's rude.
It's hard to pick just one.
Spirited Away is just full of cute little guys, I think is the main issue. So it's hard to pick between cute little guy or one of the 7 characters that are actually in the movie.
I mean, I loved when the big crow turned into the little fly bird type deal. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Very cute.
Classic. No Face to me is basically the face of the movie, just because every time I see something about Spirited Away, it's they use a No Face picture.
Why didn't I send Christian pictures of myself? Go ahead. I'm sorry, TJ. I'll tell my story in a second, but I'm having regrets right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, No Face to me is who I think of when I think of Spirited Away. I don't know why. Probably because when I watched this, I was also really into Bleach, and he looks kind of like a hollow.
Yeah.
That's also what I always thought of with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second TJ on this one. No Face is my favorite character because, I mean, really, he goes through an incredible arc in this film of just starting off as this very kind of shy entity that does, help out Chihiro a bit, and she helps him too. And as a result of that, he wants to, pay her back, because you were nice to me. I want to help you out. But seeing other people and getting corrupted by the influence of the bathhouse, he leads a more gluttonous and greedy existence because it just seems like he just picks up on those things from whoever he eats. And we see that there's a little frog guy who gets brought up into No Face, and he obtains his greed and then sees how he makes everyone happy by giving them gold that he's just making. It's not actual gold, we find out in the end. But that doesn't bring him happiness, and it doesn't bring Chihiro happiness either, because, hey, he helped her out in the moment of she really needed that little marker thing they have to bring the water down for the bathhouse. And he saw, oh, well, she likes me because I did that. Maybe if I keep doing that, thing will happen. But then he learns, oh, well, just pleasing people isn't good enough. I need to actually understand people, get along with people. So it's a very subtle bit of character development. I think he's got the most in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, No Face, if you're too young, I feel like, I remember watching this in my roommate at the time, and she's a little sensitive. She was like, that is scary. Like, and that was when he was eating everyone. And I actually have a No Face piggy bank where he eats coins. Like, you put it on the plate, and it's fantastic. I love everything about this movie, and I should have sent Christian pictures, so maybe I'll post it in the comments on YouTube. But I went to the Studio Ghibli amusement park in Japan, and they got to recreate the scene that is on the screen right now, where I just sat next to No Face, and it was probably one of the most magical experiences of my whole life.
It's true. I think the picture is on your Instagram, isn't it?
It might be. I can't remember. It was a whole year ago, and I hate my life not being in Japan, but it's fine. Herbie, what's your favorite character?
I have to say mine are probably the little cold dusk sprites that are constantly feeding the furnace for the hot water.
They are cute. I love that when Sin helped them do the coal one time, and then they were like, we get free labor. And like, there's no bad scene in this movie. Like, if I think about rewatching other movies, there's scenes where I might grab my phone and zone out, anything like that. There's no scenes I can think of where I might zone out and not enjoy.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that Ghibli movies do so well, or not really one of the reasons, but some of the proof that Ghibli movies are just made so intentionally and with such love, is that John Lasseter, who you might know of, will watch Ghibli movies when he gets stuck writing Disney movies. And they also
did not know that.
Yeah, they like Spirited Away so much that they are the reason it got an American adaptation. Because John Lasseter and a couple other Disney executives were like, yeah, we should bring this to American audiences and make $1 billion.
And then that they did. They say in the American version, what got lost in translation at the ending, they say that she's I can't remember what they said, but it implied in the Japanese version that she has no memories whatsoever, and they also said that in the book. But the American version, they just kind of like kept Chihiro silent, so she just kind of like went on to her life. So
yeah,
what do you guys think about that?
Terrible ending if she remembers none of it.
Yeah, well, but Japanese version in the book, like, it's implied it was all a dream. Like, she doesn't have any concrete memories of it.
Well, then they fail completely, because there's this scene right before where her parents are like, hey, what happened to all this dust build up here on the car? And like, that's not going to happen unless they've been gone for a while. So
well, they thought it was a prank, though. They thought someone came and pranked them.
Well, that's a super specific prank. You know, those Japanese teenagers, what do they do in their spare time? Just like,
and then what are they going to do whenever they get to somewhere else and people ask, well, where have you been all this time?
Well, starting a new job. I felt that too. I'm like, well, the movers were supposed to be there forever ago. But then you think as well, it just leaves so much whimsy if you don't know. And so this is why I've read hours and hours of fanfics, because I'm still not satisfied. And it's not over to me, because I'm like, what happened to his job? Well, did time stop while they were there? But it was implied not, because of the car. So you don't dang know.
I think, for the record, dust on the car, super funny. Hilarious prank. If it wasn't so much work to pull that off, I would do that to somebody.
Wow. I think this is a very fair folk quality to this film, dealing with the Fae or dealing with yokai, in a sense of you leave to a separate alternate dimension that lies, parallel to Earth, this little pocket reality. And time moves either faster or slower, depending on what's going on here. And I think at the end of the day, if you're looking at this objectively, you see time moved forward. How long, we don't really know, because we kind of leave them as soon as they leave. But yeah, the events of this film definitely happened. There's no ambiguity here. Joshua, I know right now you're curling your evil mustache, wishing it was, but no.
It's funny.
That's true. It's true. Josh does love a little bit of ambiguity.
I just
commitment
want.
issues, but he's married, so.
But I also think it's good that they don't quite answer those questions at the end, because they've told the story that they're going to tell. They don't need to worry about what comes after, because that's not the focus of this time of story. It's about Shitori and how she interacts with the spirit realm.
Yep. It's about being spirited away.
Not about being spirited back. It's about the time away.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd like to support our show, please consider joining our Patreon, where you get live access to our YouTube exclusives, including our comic book catch-up, manga mustard, drinks with Tejas, and our companion series that we do each year with our annual theme. You can also get exclusive merch, including t-shirts, handbags, a coffee mug, and a long sleeve shirt. We also have available bonus extra questions at the end of most of our podcast episodes. You get access to exclusive Discord channels, discounts on our store, access to any future online D&D campaigns. You get to vote on topics for some of our episodes. You can easily access all of the Patreon content right through Spotify now. So super easy. Go to our Spotify page at the top. It's going to say exclusive content for subscribers. If you're a patron, hit that button. You get all of our bonus content right there on Spotify, right with your regular feed. And of course, you get the satisfaction of knowing you helped a podcast in need. Our overhead includes editing software, marketing equipment, recording software, and a lot more. And there's a lot that goes into keeping the lights on here. And we really appreciate all of our patron subscribers for helping this show happen.
I love because Christian mentioned before, Shintoism and stuff. And so it's called Spirited Away, but if you watch other animes or Japanese dramas, they ask someone if it's like, what did you do? Just get spirited away? It's almost like a phrase that they use of people going to another world and then coming back. And so this is a very common practice in this religion where they would think that this is all possible, but they didn't even, the parents or Chihiro at the end, they didn't even have any recollection of could this have happened? Did I get spirited away? They didn't really reference the religion at all, if I'm not mistaken.
I would say I think it's for the better if the parents don't remember being turned into pigs.
I would have eaten them. Personally. I'm such a fan of you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes, and they played a stupid game. And so I want just Sen and Haku to go live together and be forever, and then the parents can just stay pigs and be eaten. And that's Liz's fan fiction version of the whole movie.
Let it be said now, I'm never traveling in car with Pang again. If the car stalls, 5 seconds after, she's going to be looking over. It's like, well, time to eat.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't have eaten that food. I would not have eaten that food.
Back to that scene, though, it's definitely not a natural sense of hunger they have there. It's definitely something driving them to that hunger, because they eat enough food to feed an army for a week in a very short period of time. There is no way that was just simply put them being hungry and eating food.
Yeah.
I feel like once they got started, then it was that's when the insatious greed took over. Because even Haku said whenever Sen started Chihiro started to disappear, he gave her a little bit of food and he's like, don't worry, this won't turn you into a pig. So you kind of think too, what made Chihiro different than the parents? Because she did eat a little food, but she didn't get a sensation appetite.
Different food.
It's also a different source for the food. She was told she could eat the food rather than taking what wasn't hers.
That's a huge part. Go ahead, Barbara.
I was going to say, in regards to the movie, that food was meant specifically as an offering to the spirits. So it wasn't for any regular person to eat. So by her parents eating the food, they're taking something meant as an offering. And so then they were cursed as a punishment. So it's I agree with Pang, you do stupid things, play stupid games, get stupid prizes. That was their reward.
Barbara also on team eat the parents.
I'm just saying.
All I'm saying.
No, I wouldn't necessarily. Hey, I love bacon as much as any other person. But I wouldn't quite eat my parents. I'd maybe keep them as a pet.
All I'm trying to point out is it's kind of clear that the witch, what's her name, Ubaba, had some kind of saying in what was going on there. There was some kind of evil afoot at the start, and Shichori, for whatever reason, was unaffected by it.
Yeah, so much of the movie is just based on like traditional Japanese yokai and the things that they do and can do. And it's a good introduction to a lot of them. Yu-Gi-Oh beat me there for a few of them because a lot of the early Yu-Gi-Oh monsters were just yokai. But if it's a topic you want to get into and you don't want to watch Yokai Watch, which is completely fair because Yokai Watch is bad.
Why is it bad?
It's not good. That's why it's bad.
It's a discount Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
The games are kind of fun though. But Spirited Away is a great introduction to all those things.
And this concept of eating food in another realm is something it happens in mythologies all over the world. Once again, your classic fair folk story is, you get taken to another realm and they say, oh, we have this dinner in front of you. And if you eat the food, then now you have to live in that realm forever. This kind of takes aspects of that here as well. It's like, just because it's presented to you, it's a test. Like many things in this film, everyone's tested. Chihiro was tested here. She was able to pass. And later on in the film, she's able to be tested once more and recognize, oh, these aren't actually my mother and father and a group of pigs. That's because she's keeping a level head versus just giving in to her desires to want to have her parents back or to want to eat. She's able to get that sense of patience, of thinking things through critically versus just meeting a desire.
Yeah, no, I probably would have worked my way up in the bathhouse and just like started like try to become part owner or something. That's just kind of like how I roll. Like,
Pang was assassinating Ubaba in her sleep like the second night she was there.
So on that topic of working in that bathhouse, it's very clear that everybody who was working there was going to be there forever. They were never going to be able to save up enough to leave.
Yeah, it kind of made me think of almost like Davy Jones's locker, like almost like the type of work, how they had to commit to so many years and stuff because no one was happy working there. And they had to make some kind of deal. So they had to sell. They ended up giving their names at some point. But to me, I'm like, you're giving up a part of your soul because in the Japanese culture, your name is so important. That's more than your identity. That's like who you are. And so by Yubaba taking her name, like she pretty much went into a lifelong contract with her.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty much every culture in the world has something like that. Your name has power, has meaning. Even in scripture, you can see, was it Samson's father asking the angel for his name? That way he could have some means of controlling him. And like it was mystic tradition. That's why the angel doesn't give his name. TJ and I are about to do the Dresden Files in about a month. And there's the archangel Uriel is in there. And Harry gives him the nickname of Yuri or something like that. And Uriel gets angry because the L part of his name means of God. So names having power is something incredibly important to multiple cultures. It makes perfect sense because what do you want people to know you by? Your name.
Isn't that crazy? I don't think Americans really care about their names, right? Elizabeth means oath of God, but that's technically Hebrew origin. And I only care about that because I love Jesus and the Bible. Like if I was a random Joe, like I wouldn't even know what Elizabeth stood for.
Yeah,
it's wild to think about.
Fell off a lot because when last names came into significance, everyone was like, "Well, you live in Blackwell, so your name's Blackwell."
Well, and that's how it was in the Philippines too. People they just had tribes, so it wasn't until the Spanish conquered the Philippines that like my family name even came into existence. So they didn't care.
Yeah, now it's just most people think it's just kind of fun to look up what your name means.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like the trend to do with your baby names, like, this is Judah. He's going to do this.
Yeah. They do. I will say mine is fun, though, which my real name is Thomas. Really boring, but it means twin. I'm a Gemini. My little sister is also a Gemini. And until I hit puberty, everyone just thought we were twins.
All right.
It's a lot of twin stuff going on in there.
I never really got into astrology. I know I'm an Aries. That's all I got.
Gemini just means twins.
Oh, okay. I just heard the Aries are bullheaded. Well, because of, like the RAM and stuff. It's fine. So okay, back on track.
Back on track to the movie. Not only did they have to give up their name, but they were given a different name in place of the name they used to have, which is another way of controlling people.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's alluded to multiple times that the bathhouse is evil. Like that is a bad place to work. That was the reason why No Face was becoming so like agitated and aggressive. Because once he left the bathhouse, he was kind of doing better. So, do you think it was just Yubaba that made the bathhouse completely evil? And she was the figurehead of it.
Well, he was also consuming other spirits in the bathhouse. And he was also consuming their characteristics. So as he was consuming more greedy spirits that were working there, he was becoming more greedy, becoming more aggressive.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like the bathhouse was its own yokai. Just in a
The bigger
bit more
question
abstract
is,
way.
Yubaba, that old granny, had a freaking baby. Where was the dad? She was living
I don't
that
think we
single
want to
mom
know.
life.
It's the bathhouse.
I want to know.
To have a baby that big, I don't think I want to know.
They're
Bathhouse
also
has
in the
to be.
spirit realm, so that implies she's also a spirit. And how that works with spirits is a different question entirely.
This is true. I mean, we need a whole other episode to figure out how spirits reproduce.
Or how does the little girl fall in love with the river spirit?
Well,
Oh, that's
yeah,
easy.
well, because he's hot.
Because this little girl also fell in love with the river spirit.
This 32-year-old little girl is still in
But I
love with that
was
little
9
boy.
at the time. I've been in love with him for 23 years.
What a shame.
Unrequited.
Oh, but that's the fun thing about, I mean, yokai and Shintoism in general is, I mean, there are established rules, but you can just make stuff up and they become part of the canon. I mean, that's really kind of how the mythology works, is if a yokai doesn't exist, you can make one up to explain something, because that's how yokai came into existence in Shintoism and the different practices of Japan. It was like, this crazy thing's happening. Well, obviously a yokai is behind it, therefore we'll name it, the Yuan or what, a Mizuchi or what have you. Therefore, now I've explained what that thing is. And people would just go, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then the next time something pops up, yeah, we'll just name that thing too. So it's infuriating from someone who likes a consistency to things, but from the standards of the religion itself, it's fine. You just add something else.
Yeah, it's crazy to me in Japan. Like, you know how there's a church pretty much on every corner you can think of, but mostly the church all agree that there's one God if you go into a Christian church. But there's so many different shrines and temples in Japan, and like even like mini shrines, and each of those shrines holds a different god. And so you can't even keep up with how many there are. And kind of like how Christian was saying, I just feel like it's like, all right, what do we need right now? This. Now the god of this dwells in this little temple thing. And some of them are gold and beautiful. But I mean, it's all a part of Shintoism, but it's such a reference and such a deep culture in Japan. And I'm curious how other countries like Japan has that deep sense of culture, even in Shintoism, whereas in America, that was founded on Christianity, like we don't have that deep roots anymore. So I wonder what makes us different than other countries who still have their like homegrown beliefs. A little off topic, but good thoughts.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared for the question.
It just came to me.
It's I don't know. It's so, I really want to know what the cultural relevance is in Japan. Like, I want to know who's playing into it and who's really believing in the yokai.
I feel like it's more tradition and the reverence of the tradition in Japan.
Yeah, I think you'd find very few people who actually legitimately believe they exist. It's more like the fun of it. Or it's like, here's this kooky thing that keeps happening. Well, obviously, that's because our umbrella has been here for 100 years and it got possessed. And therefore, it is now a yokai. It's like, this is just how it goes.
Yeah. That's lost on us. America needs that.
You think?
I do.
We got other stuff to worry about.
Yeah. Well,
Like the Olympics.
It's like what Chainsaw Man is, you know? We see what American yokai are like in Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The gun devil.
I mean, you can always ask how many people really believe in Bigfoot.
What do you
I'm
mean?
just kidding. It's not me.
Is in that there are American folk beliefs as well.
Yeah.
You got your boo hags and stuff like that. And of course, across the pond, you have things like will-o'-the-wisps, the fair folk, stuff like that. So there's stuff here in America that come from other traditions or come from the areas we live in, but it's not nearly as prevalent as someone like China or Japan or Korea.
hmm
Yeah. It's not as fun.
So
Because everyone
I feel
thinks like the Mothman Museum is a tourist trap. What if I just want the Mothman to bless me? Keep the moths away from my house.
I have been at that statue. I have been at Point Pleasant.
really, that's really a statue?
Yeah, there's a statue there.
Where?
Right in Point Pleasant. Right.
Interesting.
Only
All
3
right,
hours away, Herbie. We can go tomorrow.
Back to the movie.
I'm good.
Back to the movie.
Let's not.
Does anyone have any other thoughts or favorite scenes, or just what more do you want us to know about your relationship to this movie? Because I can talk all day about it.
So while the little dust guys were my favorite character, my favorite scene is probably where she's leaving the witch's sister's house, and she's back with the spirit, and they're flying through the air, and she remembers what his name was.
Mm-hmm.
Which releases him from the spell of Ubaba, and he can then act on his own accord again.
Yes. It was beautiful. I just want them to fall in love. And they do. They have that friendship love, though. They do have that friendship love. But I wanted more of that 10-year-old girl.
What? I am with Pang on this one because that shipper part of me is there too. But I also recognize age-wise here, there's a bit of a gap. One of them is a little immortal spirit, the other 10-year-old girl. So I prefer she'd be, a little older, a little more capable, a little more worldly.
This is also where I feel that it's good that the story just ends at the end of this episode, because I think it's somewhat implied that there is going to be some form of a bond between them after this.
There's going to be a reunion. We just need, that's one thing we don't need to see on screen. It's implied it's going to happen.
Yes.
Now,
I love that No Face stayed with Granny, though. Like, No Face getting a place to belong was a highlight, I would say, in this movie.
And the man's got such depths. I mean, who knew he was a good sewer until you gave the man a job? Okay, what do you think of the idea of like Chihiro's character the entire time of just being this genuinely good person who is unconditionally nice and being rewarded for that? What do you think the film is trying to say about that?
I think it just shows that she's a better human than I will ever be.
well, she also, even not to her own benefit, she benefited everybody around her. Everybody's life became better because she was not greedy. She did what was right. Now, a lot of times it seemed like she was just aimlessly going through what was happening around her, not even being able to process everything. In fact, you see her break down once or twice in the movie. But she ultimately doesn't act in her self-interest the entire movie, and everybody around her comes out better because of it.
Yeah. And all throughout the movie, she always had even though she was lost, she always kind of had a goal throughout. So Haku was like, go get a job. And then Kamachi was like, go see Yubaba. Then Yubaba was like, you work for me now. And then it's Lynn, and now she's training. And then she has all these different tasks. And I like the river, not the river spirit. Was it the river spirit? The one that came in stinky and then he left?
Yes.
It was a river spirit. That scene was fun. I want to smell what she smelled.
I mean,
you are alone there, I think.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're definitely alone there.
I'm just curious.
I think this is what
I'm good.
Yeah, this is what really sets her apart as a protagonist, in that everyone else here sees someone in need of their services and goes away. And there's not a good Samaritan moment here. I'm not trying to equivocate the two, but you understand what I'm trying to go to when I go that way, is that she has noticed someone who needs help. She just got here the other day, and yet she has enough presence of mind to give up of herself, to get muddy, to get dirty in order to help someone else in need. And I think that's a very important part of this film, and that she's rewarded for that with the little
medicine
ball thing. Yeah. Because she was kind, because she went the extra mile for the sake of someone else. That she doesn't know this guy's name. He stinks. It's terrible. Why would you ever want to be in that situation? But
to be fair, she didn't really have much of a choice. She's being told to do this, and her parents' life is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
there are other people who would have given up.
Me.
Yeah, Pang would have given up after eating her parents. You know, this scene wouldn't have happened. But Chihiro being a better person,
I would have figured out something to do. Mm-hmm. I would have.
Yeah, charge him double.
I'm like, she told him not to do it. Dummies.
Well, I think this film also has something to say about parents listening to their children and how they don't.
Yeah,
that has consequences.
It does. So many.
I don't know. I really like a big part of the movie is helping others, and if everyone helps others, that's all you have to worry about. You won't have to help yourself.
This is true.
Helping you.
That's a good point. All right. Any other final thoughts, Barb?
I don't know. Just thinking about the movie makes me think back of like all the different unique characters. I think one of my favorite scenes is when she meets Kamaji for the first time and she's flying down the stairs, going through the garden. You're right. She's very goal oriented, but then it's like, I admire how she takes everything kind of in stride and she doesn't freak out per se about meeting like this giant 8-legged man. And then all the little spirits were cute. But I also like the fact that they fed on candy treats instead of actual food. That was my favorite. But then, you go and you meet Len and then the others, and then I feel like most of them were based on toad spirits and slug spirits and stuff like that. But it's just keeping a calm head in the midst of like a huge time of stress. It's impressive for a 10-year-old.
What spirit do you think Len was? I don't think it was ever.
I don't know.
She is a weasel spirit, according to the wiki.
Oh, thank you, Wiki, for letting us know.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Wiki.
I wanted to know that too, so I looked it up earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Now, as we wrap up, I remembered, even though it was in my outline and I was looking at my outline when Christian gave me the look, I did skip quite a lot. So we are going to take care of that now. I want to go ahead and we're going to do our wrap up, and we're going to do our bonus question after we give out. We're going to do our geeking out, and we're going to make our geeking out recently also our recommendation. So we're just going to combine those. But before we move on, I just want to thank our Patreon supporter, Daniel Sigmund. Thank you for supporting the show. And you also can support the show, because when you do that, you get access to fun, different merch. You get access to a bonus question. And our bonus question is going to be, how do we think the story would have played out if Chihiro was able to hold her breath all the way throughout the bridge? So at the very beginning of the episode, Haku was sneaking her into the bathhouse, and she would have been golden if she could have held her breath long enough over the bridge. And so that would have changed the whole story's dynamic. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit at the end for our Patreon listeners. So once again, don't forget to please rate us, review us wherever you are listening to us. We thank you for all of your support and recommendations / geeking out. Guys, tell me real quick what y'all been doing.
I haven't gotten a start yet because I got my acceptance email right after we started recording this. But Shroud, noted Counter-Strike player, is releasing his own FPS game. It's called Spectre Divide. It's super cool. The beta started 30 minutes ago or 45 minutes ago. So that's what I've been geeking out on. It's super cool. If you're into games, you should check it out. Like if you're into tactical shooters, really unique, and I can't wait to start.
All right, Christian, go.
I finished the Shadow of the Erdely DLC for Elden Ring earlier today. Had a ton of fun with it. Got very angry along the way as well, but it's kind of just dealing with the FromSoft game. Recommendation wise, if you want to get on a yokai kick again and have a lot of fun in for the most part, low stakes series, check out Natsume's Book of Friends. It's just about a guy who inherits a book from his grandmother about how she just has names from yokai, and because of that, she can control them. But now they're in his hands now. It's a lot of good fun.
All right, Barb, you're next. Go.
As always, I'm always geeking out on different aspects of the Lord of the Rings. So I've been playing through Return to Moria, which is like the dwarves going back into the mines of Moria. And I don't know how far the way through it I am. I had to play at night when the kids are sleeping. So it's like maybe a 10th of the way through, but it's really interesting. Like, my favorite part is not decorating things, but it's actually doing the physical digging, because then your character starts singing. And you can brew your own beer, which is really fun. But a recommendation would be, it's not out yet. I'm not sure. I can't remember when they said it was coming out, but definitely check out the new anime War of the Rohirrim. It's supposed to be female-led. It's also supposed to be produced by, the lady who played Eowyn from the movies. So it's going to be really, really cool.
Nice. All right, Herbie, what have you been geeking out on?
So my last few weeks have been pretty busy tying up classes, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to be geeking out on anything. So that's about the sum of it for me.
That's okay. You've been geeking out on school. That's okay.
Yeah.
Someone has
He's
to
not
do
failing
it.
your
Glad
classes.
it's not me. Good job. Proud of you, Herbie. Me, I actually watched an anime that was not romance. Everyone go, oh,
What?
because I know it's very rare.
I
It's
can't
very
believe Pam
rare.
became a liar.
But it's y'all have already seen it because I'm late to like the non-romance animes. Kaiju number 8.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I watched like all 12 episodes. I loved it so much. I don't know why I loved it so much, but everything was fantastic. And for recommendations, since Barb talked about digging and made me think of a show that I adore, it's called Mythic Quest. And so it's about 2 gamer designers, and they just like how they go through the process of designing and creating the game Mythic Quest. And it's so funny. And like one of the main characters is Poppy, and she was so excited about the shovel. And she's like, the shovel's going to be life changing. And then the other designer was like, no, they're just going to make big penises all throughout the game. She's like, no, they're not. And it's just hilarious. Like, so definitely watch Mythic Quest. It's so fun. But yeah, any other last minutes before we sign off and do our bonus questions? This is your chance now to speak. Why are you holding up?
Movie?
Oh, rate it. I mean, I thought it was obvious. It's 10 out of 10. Go ahead, everyone rate.
9.
That's fine. You're wrong.
I would say 9 as well.
Wrong. All right, go ahead, Borb.
9.5 for me.
All right,
I'll give it a
am I
9.
wrong? All right, well, wrong. Does that mean got it?
That's
Cool.
a great
All right.
score.
Out of those, the score is 10.
So
it's a good rating all around.
if I had the same nostalgia attachment to it, I probably would have given it a 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like a
you can't beat
46
nostalgia.
A 46.5 out of 50. That's an insanely good score.
Is that like a score on some kind of website?
No, that's our scores added up.
Oh, you just added
He
them
did
up
the
real quick. Wow, impressive. So impressive. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you check out other movie reviews we have done. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you again, Daniel Sigmund, for being a Patreon, and I hope you enjoyed this bonus question coming out. So remember, everyone, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of freaks.
Did you know Systematic Geekology has a YouTube channel? Now you do. And while you're there, you can see exclusive stuff like our comic book catch-up series, Manga Mustard, Drinks with Tejas, the companion series to our annual theme. You can go Friday Night Frights with me, where I go through cryptozoology, ufology, and more. You can also go to see Spidey Swing Bys, where I'm doing every chronological appearance by release of Spider-Man from Amazing Fantasy 15 all the way to the modern age. You can also find exclusive shorts on YouTube there, as well as other bonuses for extra episodes that we do that don't end up on the podcast proper. So I want to see you over there on YouTube.
Hello, friends. If you like systematic geekology, then there's a host of other podcasts in our network that we think you will like just as much. And so we're part of the Anazao Ministry podcast network, and we hope that you can hop over and subscribe with all the podcasts that are on our network. Like, for instance, The Homily, which is, hey, Pastor Will Rose's sermon here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. You have another podcast called The Whole Church Podcast, the OG, the originals, the beginner of it all. Yes, Joshua Noel and TJ working for unity among the church and having great conversations with the wide spectrum of those who are involved in Christian ministry and the church. You have My Seminary Life by Brandon Knight, who's discussing what he's learning in seminary, what's he is learning his theological studies and bringing to the surface those big things that we're wrestling with and thinking through theologically in the church and beyond. There's the Let Nothing Move You podcast from Christian Ashley, who is walking through the Bible in a very Bible study type fashion and walking through the biblical narrative. You have Dummy for Theology. I don't think Joshua is a dummy, but hey, he's going to lift up theological themes that he's thinking about and wrestling with. And maybe there's not a lot of answers, but there's definitely a lot of great questions out there that he's lifting up with some great theologians across the whole spectrum of Christianity. And then there's the Bible After Hours. Man, if you like to get risky, if you like to get controversial, there's this foul-mouthed preacher who goes through the Bible from a more progressive point of view, challenging the status quo of the modern church. Yeah, you don't want any kids around with that podcast. And then you have the Clydes, one of my favorite couples that I like to listen to. One of the hosts here on Systematic Geekology, Taylor and Elizabeth Clyde, go through weekly discussions and kind of a devotional, conversational method of what's going on in their lives, where they see God moving in their lives, and what God is up to in the world. So those are the podcasts, a part of the AMP network. Subscribe, follow. We hope you can be a part of all that great network with the wonderful podcasts at AMP.